forward. We got the Big 12 on deck. Big 12, the quintessence, if you want a conference that represents college football, it's the Big 12. The Big 12, one of the hardest conferences to predict. Not making any predictions tonight. Obviously, thank goodness we don't have to make any predictions tonight, but definitely a lot of fascinating storylines to talk about, particularly in the Big 12, though.
Yeah, so my biggest winners in the Big 12 was actually the winners of the Big 12 in 2025. It is Texas Tech. You get the three bottom teams in your conference, Oklahoma State, Colorado, and West Virginia. Personally, to me, the only team that really could make noise out of those three is Oklahoma State, just solely based on the amount of transfers they brought in for Eric Morris in year one coming from North Texas. So it's basically the North Texas Cowboys, essentially. But you do get the three bottom feeders. Oregon State could be an interesting out-of-conference game in week 2. They have to go up the road, no, not up the road, across the country to Corvallis, which could be interesting. Week 3 is the one I'm circling on the schedule. Houston in week 3, going down to Lubbock, is going to be fascinating that early in the season. Houston is a big off-season winner for me. So Houston at Texas Tech week 3 is going to be very interesting. But then you get a pretty, I would say a break. You get Sam Houston right after that, and then at Colorado. So Arizona State's probably your next biggest conference game, October 17th. At Cincinnati, you get Arizona at home, West Virginia at home, at Oklahoma State and Baylor, which, I mean, okay. And then TCU to finish off your season. So the reason they're my winners, again, you get the three bottom feeders from last season, and their roster is going to be stacked once again with Joey McGuire at the helm. And I saw you put them also as your biggest winner. I mean, their roster is just too good for this conference in my eyes. Like they have potential to finish in the top 4 seed once again next year. And then again, we're not predicting anything right now, but that's just my speculation. That schedule is very, very workable for Texas Tech.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I do have Texas Tech as my biggest winner for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned as well. When I was looking at it, this is genuinely the easiest Power 4 schedule. I think not only in the Big 12, it's not only the easiest schedule in the Big 12. This is the easiest schedule in the Power 4, in my opinion. So Texas Tech has a very navigable path to get that Big 12 title and get to the college football playoff once again. Now, one thing that I do want to caveat, just keep people in the back of my mind, I just talked about it. We just talked about Notre Dame and how Notre Dame doesn't really necessarily have a resume where they can go 10-2 and make it to the college football playoff as at large with how their resume stands right now. Notre Dame has a more difficult schedule than Texas Tech does. So if Texas Tech, either doesn't go undefeated in the regular season, or they lose games in the regular season and lose in the Big 12 title game, if that happens, Texas Tech is not going to have a resume that's going to be able to stand up to maybe some of the other resumes we're going to see around the country. So I do want to caveat that point, although Texas Tech does have a really good roster. We should see them in the mix, but rosters haven't been finalized yet. We still have several high key names in the portal. Definitely something to keep an eye out for. I love Texas Tech's schedule, though.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all the points you just said. Biggest loser in the Big 12, I think it's pretty clear. It's Arizona. Arizona is the biggest loser. You start off with Northern Arizona, all respect to Northern Arizona, but then your second game of the season, you go on the road at BYU. Like, hello. Welcome back to college football. You go on the road to Provo in week 2. NIU, okay, Washington State on the road could be interesting. Again, a former Pac-12 game, at Washington State could be interesting. You get Cincinnati at home, which you'd expect them to regress a little bit. West Virginia on the road is okay. You have to travel across the country, but then this is really where it gets tough for Arizona. So you get Iowa State at home, October 24th, on the road at Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, both at home, and then at Kansas State. and then you get Arizona State at the end of the season. So let's just say you play BYU, Texas Tech, Utah, TCU, and Iowa State. All five of those teams had a minimum of 8 wins from last season, and they're pretty much straight up. I mean, just straight up starting the season on the road at a 12 win team in your conference is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that you go where I lost the tab. I got it back. You go Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Utah. Those are 4 teams that had winning records in your conference last year. Yeah, that's. I mean, the final 6 games of their schedule, they are playing very worthy competition that they realistically, at least projecting it now, Arizona could lose 5 of those final 6 games. Like that is a brutal schedule for Arizona.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those schedules that lines up to where like people can get really excited about Arizona early, and then you get into late October and into November, and you don't really hear much from them. If that happens, it might be because of that back end that you mentioned, Reed. It's going to be tough sailing for this Wildcats team moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're one of the teams in the Big 12 that has a lot of question marks coming in this year. I don't really know what we're going to get out of Arizona coming into 2026. But again, you're facing 5 of the top teams from your conference last season. Like good freaking luck. My team to watch in the Big 12. Let me scroll. It's Houston. Houston is my team to watch. They get Oklahoma State and Colorado, 2 of the bottom feeders. Texas Tech, I think, could be really interesting. As I said, in week 3, they go on the road to Texas Tech, Kansas State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, and UCF. So I think Houston is a big winner here, and I think that their portal haul is very, very interesting. I think they were a big winner in the portal. I'm pulling up their schedule again because I did not write the schedule, but there we go. Yeah. Open up the season against Oregon State. I think that's not a cakewalk, but I think that's a good week 1 game. Southern at Texas Tech, like I said, in week 3. And then at Georgia Southern. Very interesting going on the road to a G5 team, especially the size of Georgia Southern. So UCF at Kansas State, Oklahoma State, pretty sizable, 3-game stretch right there to start the, midway point. You get to the midway point at Utah, at home against Cincinnati, at Colorado and West Virginia could be interesting road tests near the back end of the schedule, but then you finish the season with Baylor. Again, I think it's a very manageable schedule. You avoid BYU, you avoid Iowa State. Who else do you avoid? You get Texas Tech, Cincy, Utah. I mean, you avoid 3 pretty major players. TCU, you avoid TCU. So you avoid a handful of the major players in your conference. Aside from Texas Tech, Kansas State, Utah, and Cincinnati. I mean, potentially Oklahoma State could pose a challenge, but I think it's a very, very workable schedule for Houston. And I think Willie Fritz, again, with that portal class, I think they're bound to do great things in 2026, potentially.
Yeah, and Willie Fritz certainly has his team well ahead of schedule. I mean, this was a team that Houston team was a team that I did have ranked in my top 25 at the end of the year. So certainly a dark horse team to possibly win the Big 12 this year, based upon a lot of what Reed mentioned for sure. And I almost had them as my team to watch as well. I almost like did the old copy and paste like you did. Like I swear, did you read my notes?
No, I think just great minds think alike.
I was really close to going Houston as my team to watch, but the team that I ended up going with in terms of my team to watch was actually I ended up rolling with Utah. I'm fascinated by Utah under a brand new head coach. Kyle Whittingham, definitely left to go and be the head coach at Michigan. But I look at Utah's schedule. Utah has a schedule that's somewhat navigable, particularly in Big 12 conference play, that I don't think as many people are talking about. So I had 4 teams ranked in the Big 12 to end the year, and besides Utah, the other 3 teams for Utah, either they avoid completely during the course of the regular season or they have at home. So they do have Houston and BYU at home, but then they also get to avoid Texas Tech completely this time around too, which I think is going to be really fascinating for this Utah team going forward. They also have, I believe, Devin Dampierre coming back as well. It's going to be a really interesting team to watch just from the aspect of I'm really curious to see if Utah can take that final step and make that first college football playoff appearance. I think that's a team that is very capable of doing that, particularly because it's one of the more navigable schedules in the conference. I do have them in the bottom half from a strength of schedule component. So it's a team to watch for me for sure. Biggest loser there. I also almost went with Arizona as well. I was very close. I know that Arizona has been a very
Did you
popular
read my notes? Did you read my notes?
I man, great minds think alike, man. You said it, not me. I really thought about Arizona. I ended up going in a different direction. I ended up going with Colorado. Colorado ends up
Mm-hmm.
being the biggest loser for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how I was talking about how Utah got the benefit of missing, like the best teams from last season. Colorado didn't really get that, my guy. They did not get a chance to avoid Texas Tech. They did not get a chance to avoid Utah, and they do not get a chance to avoid BYU. And you want to talk about a bunch in the dick? Colorado at the end of the year, they. Oh, I'm actually. Hang on. I was looking at the wrong schedule. So they do have Utah. They do have Utah, Texas Tech, and Houston at home, but they have to play all of those teams though. And this is a team that is coming off of a 3-9 season. And they lost some talent, man. I mean, they lost Jordan Seaton in the transfer portal. That's a humongous loss. And then non-conference play doesn't really provide much relief either. Weaver State, that's a solid FCS program. Shout out to Devin Brown, who's there. So I mean that's a quarterback that could give Colorado some trouble. Former 5-star recruit, by the way, finally getting a chance to play. But they also have to go on the road to play against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was a team that was a Pop Tarts Bowl recipient. I think that's an extremely high honor. Cannot overlook that whatsoever. And then they also have Northwestern on the road. That's a solid program under
Mm-hmm.
David Braun. And they have to go on the road, cross-country road trip as well, to go play that Northwestern team where they may or may not have a brand new Ryan Field. So they may have an actual home field advantage on top of making a cross-country road trip as well. That's why I had Colorado as my biggest loser. Also, plus they're coming off of a 3-9 season, like I mentioned. Just not the type of schedule that you want to have to try to create some confidence early. So we'll see. Ooh.
Yeah, Juju Lewis, welcome to college football as the full-time starter. This is that is a gauntlet. That is a gauntlet. I don't have much to add on to that. I mean, you made every single point related to that. Colorado was my next biggest loser behind Arizona. So yeah, I mean, we get to this point next year. Deion Sanders could be on the hot seat, especially if they go 3-9 again. So I mean, Colorado's definitely one of those teams to watch out for, just solely because they could be as bad as they were last year again with that schedule. Like every team around them got better and they got worse.
Yeah, and that's a really important factor as well. I mean, there's not a lot of teams in this conference that got worse, but there are several teams in this conference that you could say seem to be an improved version from what they were in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Colorado is going to have one of the tougher schedules in this conference, on the fact that they're coming off of a 3-9 campaign. This is not the type of environment and Colorado could end up being an improved team, mind you. Okay. Like Colorado could surprise some people and they could be a better on-field product than expected, but they could still have a similar record because of how the schedule shakes out.